So I've got like rheumatoid arthritis. So every morning, I wake up in pain every morning.
Yeah.
So basically, every day, 5 o'clock in the morning or earlier, I have to get up because of the pain. Do you have any advice on like if you're dealing with physical pain?
Yeah.
Right. How you can meditate or use practices to get your mind in a way that also when you're dealing with physical pain, that you can somehow, see it as something to get away from, right?
Yeah, I mean, I sympathize. I have arthritis in my shoulder also, and I have somewhat similar challenges. But the first thing is that in meditation we can learn to see how what we call physical pain is actually also involves the mental reaction to the physical pain. So we tend to think it's just one thing, but when we have physical pain and chronic physical pain, and there's I don't want this, I don't want it to bind me. Anxiety about the future, is it going to get worse, and where's this all leading to, and doubt and about what's the best way to treat it. So all those that sort of ball of mental reaction to it is so instinctual that seems to be just one and the same thing, and we call it physical pain. But through mindfulness practice and meditation, you can learn to separate these, and that's an incredible relief to see that actually the worst part of it is something that you're adding onto it, and you don't have to do that, and that the physical part is sometimes is actually not so bad. It's not one, oh, here it is again, and this says, that sense of depression, and I've got to deal with this again, another day, another round of pain, that kind of thought. But that's what you can deal with. That's the practice there. Talking about like Dhamma practice, or I'm talking this education system, rather than confining specifically to meditation technique or meditation techniques, then I like to look at it in terms of what we call the 4 right efforts. So let's say in regard to waking up with pain, the first thing is, how can I prevent all these negative mental states from arising when I feel physical pain? Or if they do arise, how can I let go of them? Is there a silver lining here? Is there are there some good qualities that I can develop through dealing with this? And can I feel a sense of growth in Dhamma through this particular challenge? A couple of like practical advice is that your mind can only either be in a positive or a negative, a wholesome or an unwholesome state. You can't have positive and negative elements in your mind at the same time. This is like basic Buddhist psychology. So one very useful technique is simple replacement. So if you're experiencing a lot of negative reaction to pain, then you cultivate positive, like loving kindness. So wherever it is that you have the rheumatoid arthritis, just sending these thoughts of love and acceptance, and just sort of caressing, yeah, you're okay, like you would with a baby, don't worry, everything's going to be all right, and just be kind to it. But cultivating that very kind, accepting thought replaces all the negative energy. If you want a more kind of wisdom practice, then look at the area of pain and investigate it, like scientifically. And there's like three good topics. One is the location of the pain. You say, oh, I've got a pain here and I've got pain there. But when you look at it very closely, it's moving around. It's not stable. So here you're having an insight into impermanence. And secondly, the characteristic of the pain. There's different kinds of pain. There's shooting pains and pressing pains and so on. And again, when you look at it more closely, it's not stable. There is a change, shift, impermanence. And then the intensity of the pain, like from 1 to 10, it comes in waves. It's not stable. So there again, here you're replacing the negative, I don't want this kind of reaction with this interest and curiosity. And look, this is a manifestation of the three characteristics of anicca, dukkha, anatta. This is my meditation object. This isn't my cross to bear. This is my path to liberation. It's something I can really learn from. Yeah.
Thank you.
I was just wondering, if you're not based near a Sangha, do you have any advice for somebody who is getting to know Buddhism, been meditating for a while, but just simply doesn't have anyone else around? It might be a bit vague, that question, but
Well, there are a lot of sort of interesting developments over the past couple of years due to COVID, and I know a lot of groups now, Dhamma groups, who just come together in the morning and evening on Zoom and meditate together, sometimes chant together or listen to a Dhamma talk together. And so, we're very fortunate right now that you may be living alone or isolated, or you're not so into joining things. You like your independence, but you have the best of both worlds if you can find some like-minded people and have an online group. So that's one of our perks of the modern age. We can do that.
Hi, I just came back from practice at Wat Pananachat, and I just saw Ajahn Kewali, and he told me to come here. So this is my first time at Amaravati Monastery.
Okay. Did you have a good stay?
Yes, I had a very good stay, 9 days, and it was a life-changing experience for me.
Oh, great.
My question is, you talk about dukkha, and one of the Four Noble Truths, I think the last one was upekkha or equanimity. I would like to know, how can we apply that in daily life when we are aware that dukkha arise, in a simple term, please.
Yeah, actually, upekkha is the fourth of a different group, which is called the Brahma Viharas. So these are like the positive emotions to be cultivated of loving kindness and compassion and sympathetic joy, and then upekkha. So upekkha, or most of these groups of Dhammas, almost all of them have a wisdom representative somewhere in the group. They're not always called wisdom or panya. In this particular group, upekkha is the wisdom member. So with loving kindness and compassion, particularly, you have this really wholesome wish to help others, be kind, relieve suffering, but it doesn't always work out for one reason or another. Maybe that person's quite happy to be the way they are. They don't see the problem that you see. They don't trust you. You don't have the communication skills. They have bad friends who turn them against the wise counsel. So many things can come and prevent kind people from helping others. So if you're very well intentioned and you want to help somebody, be happy or be free of suffering, and there are obstacles. Where does your mind dwell? If it's very easy to fall into discouragement and depression and frustration, but the Buddha says you shift to upekkha. There's this equanimity, and equanimity is that evenness of mind, where you recognize that, like, ripeness is everything. Everything has a time and a place, and whether it's old comer, newcomer, it's just not now the time where you can do anything. So you rest in that evenness of mind and acceptance. Well, this is the way things are right now, with all the causes and conditions that are coming into play. But it's not say, okay, I've done my best, that's it, didn't work out, forget it. It's to say, yeah, I'm ready. If things are change, and I can do something, I will. But right now, I'm not going to suffer about it because I wasn't able to fulfill this wholesome wish. So you dwell in the upekkha, it's like the neutral gear, and then if there's something changes, then you move into a new gear and do something more active and helpful. Okay, I'll come over to you next. Okay.
Hello, Bante.
Yes.
What should I do when I want to run away? I have some time coming up where I want to undertake some more intensive meditation, but whenever I go on retreat, I often want to run away, and I'm fearful of this. Thank you.
Yeah, if you've got a really good friend who you trust, and kind friend, tell them to tie you up. Lock the door. Yeah, sometimes it's just, you don't have the strength by yourself. It's all right. That's completely normal. You really need to depend on people that you trust, have integrity, have your best wishes at heart, and say, don't listen to me, just make sure I stay here, and so you need a network, you need good friends. And so, like, Theravada Buddhism in some ways is the ultimate religion of self-reliance. You're born alone, you get old alone, you die alone, you've got to sort this out, nobody can do it for you. So there's that whole kind of side of the teachings, and the other side is this emphasis on friendship and good friendship, and the Buddha says it's the whole of the holy life, and it's tough, when you have these really strong tendencies. There was one American man who came to our monastery. He was already in his 40s when he came, and he was just so dedicated and so on it and then 6 months in, he just like that, he said, I'm leaving. Everybody thought he was like he's going to be one of the stalwarts of the monastery for years to come, and he left. And then some years later, I found he'd done this. He went on to do exactly the same thing in 2 or 3 other branch monasteries. He arrived, he just fitted in so well, he was so humble, so dedicated, everybody loved him. 6 months in, and that was it, he's leaving. And I don't know how many times he'd done that before, but once you get to that age, like 40, it's just such a strong karmic pattern that it becomes really difficult. You're young, you can still do it, but I think you really need to look at finding ways of asking friends to help you, and to just, when you just push through that, that's all it is. You create, once you've done it once, you see, then you have that memory in your mind. If you've never done it at all, there's always that doubt, I can't do this, it's too much for me. But you only need to do it once. And they say, well, if you do it once, you can do it twice. You can do it twice, you can do it 3 times. And it's nothing more kind of mystical and esoteric than that. It's just creating a new habit and then cultivating that new habit until it eventually wipes out the old habit. So, yeah, it's doable for sure. Sorry, there's someone over here.
Hello. Ajahn, it was just a question about attachment. I think Buddhism teaches that we shouldn't become too attached to anything because it has impermanence in it. And if we become too attached to it and we lose it, then we're going to suffer. That's my rudimentary understanding. So I just wanted to ask if there are any good attachments.
Yeah, I have a lot of time for Velcro, actually. That's very good. I think it's more like say in family life, you voluntarily take on some attachments. There's no way as a father you're not going to be attached to your daughter, but the Buddha is saying recognize that this is fertile. I'm sure you've had your share of suffering as well in bringing up a child, and you will in the future, because that's part of it. But you say, on the balance, I'm up for this. It's okay. That there will always be in relations with people you love, the fear and the anxiety, and that's part of it, isn't it? And that's something that you take on as a householder, or as a father, or as a husband. But nevertheless, the intensity of the suffering is not a fixed thing, and the Buddha recommends that we meditate and we reflect. We do certain chants, and we do one we did this morning that you probably wouldn't known the Thai. It was like, I am of the nature to age. I've not gone beyond aging. I have the nature to sicken. I've not gone beyond sickness. I am the nature to die. I've not gone beyond death. One day I'm going to be separated from everything and everyone I love. So you chant this every day, just so it becomes just part of your understanding of life. Yeah, it's wonderful that we have this life together, but it's going to come to an end sometime. One of us is going to die, and the second one, the third one. We don't know who's going to come first. Probably you, because you're older, but we don't know. So it's this sense of opening yourself up to those things. Oh, don't think about that. It's morbid. That's the kind of way you hear. And you say, Buddha says, no, you need to think about these things. And rather than being depressing, it actually makes you see the value. Yeah, we don't know how much longer we're going to have to live with each other. And when I was there's a story when I was a teenager, I had a sort of stormy time with my parents, particularly about the length of my hair. Yeah, it's kind of ironic now, but and after then I became a monk, and I was in Thailand for 6 years. I came back for the first time, and my parents drove down to Chithurst and picked me up to take me home. And we're in the car, and I had this same thought. When I think about all the times that difficult times in my teens, because of the length of my hair, and here I am with a shaved head, and my mother said at that moment, she said the same thing. You were with us for like 17 or 18 years. I never thought that the time we would spend together would be that short. And now you're living on the other side of the world. And if I could go back, some people say, I wouldn't change anything. My mum would change something. She said, if I could go back, I would never have made so much fuss about the length of your hair. And I'm thinking at the same time, well, if I'd known I was going to become a monk, I wouldn't have made such a big fuss of it. But, this is the wisdom of hindsight, isn't it? I mean, but with Dhamma, you can see, yeah, this is precious time we have together. And to recognize that everything's uncertain, everything's unsure. So let's not argue about stupid, petty things. Let's not make a mountain out of molehills. And let's enjoy the time together, because it's limited, and recognizing that there will be changes and that you'll move apart and it won't always be what you want. But you see, this is the nature of life, the nature of change, that things are always changing. And in meditation, again, coming back to this point of what you learned from meditation, is as you calm down, you begin to see things arising, passing away in your mind, a thought, an emotion, a memory, and it rises and it passes away. And every time it passes away, that's a separation. And so you're experiencing separation and cessation many, many times in a day, but you don't think, every time you walk out the house, there's a separation. But reflecting on that and seeing how separation is part and parcel of our life, then that, and how little control you have over things, which you see again in, like, think about thinking, as we identify with thinking a lot, but can you predict what you'll be thinking about in 5 minutes' time, or 1 minute, or 10 seconds, or even 1 second? You can't predict even 1 second beforehand for sure what you'll be thinking about. So that there's where is the control there, and how neurotically we strive to control things. So it's in that kind of area in the lay life, that we can really work with attachment, with that strong, it's got to be like this. It can't be any other way. I can only be happy if it's like this, and letting that go. But there will always a certain level of attachment, because that's just like, I call it love tax. You love somebody, there's a tax to pay, but you're willing to pay the tax. But that's what it's about.
I paid a few taxes in my time. Thank you very much.
Yeah.
Hello. My question is, how should I introduce my parents to the practice? I mean, I was born into a different religion, but I was quite grateful to my parents that they never stopped me from following my own path. But now they have at an age where they accept me as who I am and what I practice. But now I want to introduce them to the practice. So I want to take your advice of how should I introduce them to the practice.
How to introduce them
my
to
parents,
the practice. Yeah, I think that really what attracted me, and I think many other people, to maybe yourself as well, to Buddhism is how practical it is. I mean, I felt growing up that the Christianity or whatever was telling people you should be like this and you should be like that, but not giving people really sufficient tools to change. They say, well, I'm not like that, what do I do? And most people just feel guilty because they're not the kind of people they think they should be. So that may be unfair to Christian, but that's at least my take on it. So I think with parents, of course you have to respect their own religious tradition, and if they're happy with that, then we shouldn't try to convert them to Buddhism. That's not the sort of the Buddhist way. But what we can say is, look, you're a Christian, you're a Muslim, you're a Sikh, you're a whatever. But in Buddhism, there's some really good techniques and things that really help to be more happy and more calm and more peaceful. And are you interested in learning some of these kind of techniques? So it's more like borrowing things from the Buddhist tradition to enhance their own tradition. I think that's probably a better way to go. I mean, it may be they'll say, well, I really like this Buddhism, and but it has to come from them, really. But in terms of mindfulness practices and so on, and things that would make a definite improvement in their life, with Buddhism, we don't have a kind of copyright on these things. So well, if you can make use of that, then go ahead. And it's an offering of a kindness and without strings attached. And yeah.
Hello. ส
Yeah.
วัสดีค่ะพระอาจารย์นมัสการค่ะ
ช่วยเอา
I
หน้า
have
กากลงได้ไหมฟังไม่ค่อยได้ยิน
ค่ะI have one worried big dukkha at the moment about the unwanted war
เสียงดังๆหน่อย
Yeah, it's about the unwanted war at the moment. I woke up and I said, oh, whatever, it's going to happen another day. As being a Buddhist, which is peaceful people, I just wonder that for us, for you, for everyone that have any worried about this, and if that is there any way that we can reduce this dukkha by being helped, or
I'm sorry, I can't hear it.
Yeah, it's about the Ukraine war.
The Ukraine war.
Yes, which is it's not that far from England.
Yeah.
We have got a very big dukkha about this. But as being a Buddhist people, which is peaceful people, I'm just wonder that are you have any worried about this, or we have any worried about this, or if there is, then what can we do to reduce this dukkha?
Am I worried about it? I'm concerned because I have a student, a young, quite a junior monk, who went to start a small monastery in Kiev at the end of last year.
Oh,
and I told him I didn't think it was a good idea, but he was determined he wanted to propagate Buddhism in his home country. So he was living in Kiev with two other bhikkhus, one trained in Burma and one trained in Sri Lanka, all Ukrainians, 3 Ukrainians together.
Mm-hmm.
And they did a Maka Puja retreat, and I did a Q&A session. It's like about 2 days or so before the invasion, and so they were caught in Kiev, and I've been speaking with him on the phone every day, every 2 days. Well, on WhatsApp, they still have coverage there, amazingly. And he had to leave eventually, and he's living in a little shed in the back of a farm in the middle of the countryside near Poland at the moment. So I have some concerns for him. But this is the world we live in, isn't it? I mean, this is a war which is drawn, it's a terrible thing, and it's drawn a lot of attention, and it's on the news every day. But there are wars all the time. I mean, I can't think of a time when there hasn't been a war. But if it's in Africa or in Syria or even Iraq, Afghanistan, it's maybe not, doesn't touch people the same way that this war has done, but there is.
My question is that how do you eliminate your feeling of being worried? You see how?
Yeah, okay, that's a much better question. I'm sorry if I didn't pick out yet. So what I'm trying to say is there are always things that are encourage or would trigger our feelings of anxiety. So the most important thing that we're learning is to see anxiety as anxiety. So anything that in our mind, we can look at it in two ways. We can look at the content or the process, and both things are important. You know, if you're in many cases, you know, you're thinking, you need to be thinking without prejudice, without bias, thinking logically, and so on. This is making sure the content of your thought is good. But the other side, and the side that we're not so good at, is seeing thought and seeing emotion and anxiety in the process. Because anxiety is not with you 24 hours a day. It arises and it passes away. And being able to see that. And also, more practically, to recognize just how much anxiety is triggered by just watching too much news. You don't need to watch the news all day. You can look for 5 minutes in the morning and get if you want, and you can find out all you need to know about what happened in last 24 hours in Ukraine within 5 minutes. But constantly looking at all the updates and watching it, you know, what is the purpose of that? What is the purpose of keeping up to date hour by hour and what's happening in a war? I don't see it's a useful or a valuable thing. I certainly feel you should be informed and should know what's going on, but I just feel it's way over the top and it's just destructive of mental health, and it's not a useful thing. So I would say don't follow the war so much. That would help with the anxiety. But the other thing is to be aware of anxiety as a mental state. There's always something. If it wasn't the Ukraine war, it'd be something else that, you know, that we can worry about. So we really have to understand how the mind works and what feeds this kind of mental state and what reduces it or alleviates it.